Let's get the latest now with our U.S. correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, who's currently following the developments in this story for us. Sherwin, great having you with us. Good afternoon. So we know the suspect is currently in custody. What more can you tell us at this stage in this developing investigation? Has he started talking yet?
Good afternoon, Alicia. And I think the main point to be made is that Donald Trump is safe and secure after encountering what we can now describe as a second assassination attempt on his life. What we know about the suspect is that he's a 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ruth, originally from North Carolina, having lived most of his life in that state before moving to the state of Hawaii. He posted frequently. He had a political inclination, particularly around geopolitics, the war in Ukraine, having traveled to Ukraine at some point in the last number of years as an effort to recruit people to fight on behalf of the Ukrainian armed forces against the Russian invasion. He also posted about Donald Trump just ahead of the 2020 election, which Trump subsequently lost, Alicia, to Donald Trump. This is what he says in that social media post. While you were my choice, directing this, of course, at Donald Trump, while you were my choice in 2016, I and the world hoped that President Trump would be different and better than the candidate. But we are all greatly disappointed, and it seems you are getting worse and devolving. Quote, I will be glad when you are gone. So that gives us some indication of Ryan Wesley Ruth's thinking here. We've also heard from the former president directly. He emailed supporters, Alicia, shortly after that incident. He said there were gunshots in my vicinity, but before rumors start spiraling out of control, I wanted you to hear this first. I am safe and well. He also later thanked law enforcement for keeping him safe, calling the job they did absolutely outstanding, and that he was proud to be an American. We also subsequently heard from the incumbent President Joe Biden. He put out a statement. Part of that statement, Alicia, says, I have said many times there is no place for political violence or for any violence in our country, and I have directed my team to ensure that the Secret Service has all the resources, capability, and protective measures necessary to ensure the former president's continued safety. And before you ask me about what Kamala Harris has said, the current vice president and Donald Trump's opponent in this current election cycle, she said she was deeply disturbed by the possible assassination attempt on the former president. As we gather the facts, I will be clear. I condemn political violence. We all must do our part, Alicia, to ensure that this incident does not lead to more violence. But I think broadly speaking here, I think it speaks to the climate we are in, the era we're in, the level of political rhetoric in this country that can be quite pointed, and violence certainly directed at candidates is certainly no small matter in this country at the moment.
Absolutely, Sherwin. So obviously there will be some serious concerns, right, that on two occasions now, alleged assassins have been able to get that close to taking out a former president and current Republican nominee for that position. But also more broadly, as you mentioned, in an election cycle that has been quite unusual and unexpected in so many various ways, including with President Biden's dramatic exit from the race.
Yeah, this, Alicia, is certainly the election that just keeps on giving, right? That dramatic election debate failed by President Biden in that encounter with Donald Trump at the end of June. Speculation following weeks later about whether he would stay in the race or not, eventually in July exiting the race. Cue Kamala Harris, who had to shore up support within the party that led to her eventual nomination in August. In between that, Donald Trump surviving an assassination attempt, a bullet literally grazing his right ear as he spoke at that campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. And already questions were raised about the posture and the apparatus by the Secret Service that is tasked with protecting presidential candidates, former presidents, and certainly the incumbent in the White House today. And the president, as he left the White House this morning to board a Marine One, the helicopter that takes him to Air Force One, he stopped to talk to reporters, and he said that it was really up to Congress to take a look at this issue and really decide whether the Secret Service needed more personnel. And if you really take a step back from this, Alicia, and really understand the security apparatus that surrounds the former president, the current vice president, the incumbent, they have a lot of people that surround them. So questions really have to be asked as to how it was possible for this individual to get to a perimeter fence. Yes, he was identified by Secret Service agents before Trump got close to him. So, there was an advance team. They saw this muzzle pointing out of the brush or the bushes on the perimeter of the golf course, engaged the suspect, fired shots at the suspect, who then fled and was apprehended later. Calmly, we understand, complying with police orders to surrender. So a lot of questions here about what could possibly be needed in terms of bolstering and recapacitating the Secret Service. But it's certainly not an underestimation to say that there's a lot of security around Donald Trump already. But what this points to is that he might very well, Alicia, need more.
Well, is there any indication as to how then Sherwin incidents of this nature will affect the election race, given just how evenly matched the polls say this race currently is?
Yeah, this is a tight race, and there were certainly questions about a sympathy vote for Donald Trump after he survived that initial assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. But Alicia, we didn't see great movement in the polls in either direction here. The support for either candidate is largely baked in already. So it's unclear as to whether these incidents are really going to reframe the debate. What I can certainly tell you is that we've heard from conservatives, we've heard from Donald Trump supporters. They blame the rhetoric around the persecution of Donald Trump, the weaponization of the Justice Department, given all the legal trouble Donald Trump has found himself in. But let's also not forget that there is also a certain kind of rhetoric emanating out of this candidate, the Republican nominee himself. Just on the morning of this assassination attempt on Sunday, he had tweeted that, quote, "I hate Taylor Swift." Why? Because Taylor Swift announced that she would be supporting Kamala Harris after the two met in a debate a week ago or so. So the rhetoric here is very pointed. That certainly is emblematic of the era we are in, the great importance either side attaches to this election. And so that is unlikely to change as we head into the last stretch of this election. 49 days to go, Alicia. The rhetoric is only going to get sharper given just how tight the polls continue to be.
I certainly saw that tweet, Sherwin. Thank you so much for that update. That is, of course, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News correspondent in New York.